Since January 1st of this year, my former home pastor and now beloved friend and mentor has been walking through a particular spiritual practice when it comes to his posts on Facebook. He's been posting daily hopeful posts. Every single day, he pops up on my feed with his daily dose of hope. And they have ranged from the serious news link, like the latest ad from Burger King about people's responses to a customer being bullied versus their burger being bullied, to the semi-amusing, like a newspaper article from 1863 proclaiming an unquestionable victory for Lee at Gettysburg, was his hopeful reminder to not always believe everything you read. There have been comics, like one of those virtual postcards with a family walking out of church saying, "That was a great sermon on sin. I felt like the pastor was talking directly to the man 2 pews ahead of us." Hope in seeking to be a little less judgmental. There have been fluffy animal photos and pictures of his family at friends' weddings, and man, oh man, have there been quotes and quotes in abundance. And I want to share a couple of them with you this morning. The first one was this: practicing the pause. Pause before judging. Pause before assuming. Pause before accusing. Pause whenever you're about to react harshly, and you'll avoid doing and saying things you'll later regret. And the second quote, of all of the things that he has posted over the last 10 months, this quote has been my favorite, and it just happens to come from Martin Luther. "I have held many things in my hands, and I have lost them all. But whatever I have placed in God's hands, I still possess." A year of hope, a year of hopefulness. And isn't that something we all could use? You know, this is the second time that we've heard this passage from Matthew this year. The first time was way back in February during the season after Epiphany, when we were in the midst of lessons trying to teach us about just who Jesus was and the kingdom he came to bring. And all of those months ago, I preached about stranger things and God's upside-down kingdom. And while it was unbelievably tempting to dub this sermon Stranger Things 2, The Beatitudes Return, in honor of the second season of Netflix's cult hit dropping last week, I'm not going to, because way back in February, well, our focus wasn't quite what it is today. All those months ago, we were driving towards discipleship and a focus on the world God calls us to create, to go out and indeed help the little people rule the world. This morning, these words are still a call, but they're also probably what Jesus would post if Facebook was, a thing way back in 30 AD and he was doing a year of hopefulness. Because here's the thing with the Beatitudes. They are a message from Jesus about the kingdom that we are to help to create, but they are also a message of hope about the world that Jesus has already created. Many of us come here today with hearts that are a bit tangled up because we want to remember and celebrate our saints, those that we have said goodbye to not just this year, but in all of our years. We want to laugh and talk about the amazing things they did, the ways they moved us and changed our lives. Yet in the midst of that desire, there is still very real grief. It is undeniable when coming face to face with loss. We remember and we celebrate, but we do still mourn. And the thing is, even if we haven't lost someone this year, that doesn't mean that we haven't experienced loss this year. Maybe today you're here and reflecting back on a year that has brought you disappointment and discouragement. Maybe this year has brought you a loss of a job, a loss of a relationship as it once was, a loss of a sense of security, a loss of strength, a loss of your general health, a loss of some of your memories, or maybe even a loss of hope itself. All of those emotions circle in our hearts and they rage and storm, and honestly, the last thing that we want to hear is another round of marching orders from Jesus to go full bore and change the world. Here's the thing though. Jesus has already changed the world. He did it from the second he spoke these words up on a mountaintop all those years ago. What Jesus did with these words is this. He looked at all of those people who felt disconnected from God, who felt hopeless, who felt like their spirits were lagging, flames slowly flickering into nothingness in their hearts, and he said, the kingdom of heaven is yours. No matter how poor in spirit you are feeling, God has come for you, and you are never too far gone. He looked at all of those people who were mourning a loss and said, this feeling is not forever. You will find comfort. You will find comfort in my arms and in the gift of resurrection that will be coming. You will mourn, but you will see them again. He looked at all of those people that felt powerless and lost, who felt like they were having to hold something back for whatever reason, and he said, this earth is yours. You have power because you are my children. You have a shepherd. You'll find your way and your strength. He looked at all of those who saw the oppression around them, that were hungering and thirsting for righteousness, for a return to equality and communal hope, and he said, it's here. We are building up a community of disciples, of saints who will help you change the world. All is not lost. Righteousness is right here in front of you. Righteousness is coming. He looked at all of those that felt like they were trying so hard to show mercy and care, and who maybe felt like they got nothing in return, and he said, mercy is here. It's standing right in front of you. You are cherished. He looked at all of those that felt like they were trying to walk the straight and narrow path, all for nothing, because it didn't feel like it was getting them anywhere. And he promised them that God would stand right before their eyes, and then there Jesus stood. He looked at all of those that felt like their lungs were burning from constantly trying to speak a word of peace into the world, who were exhausted from playing the middleman in their families, in their jobs, in their own hearts. And he said, you are the hope of this kingdom, because we need you, and with you there will be peace. He looked at all of those that were feeling oppressed and persecuted, and he promised he had come for them, to ease their burdens and share their yoke. Each of these people longed for the kingdom, and Jesus stood up and promised them that it's already here. And that is what Jesus does all over again for us today in these words. He looks at you that are grieving the loss of a loved one, and says that there is promise in the hope of the resurrection. I died so that they may live again, so that you may live again, that you may live together again. He looks at each of us who are grieving whatever loss we feel today, a job, a relationship, an opportunity, a stage of life, our very selves, hope in general. And he says that this feeling, it isn't the last and only feeling. I came for you, for every single one of you. I created this kingdom for you to have a place, and for you to find hope. You are not alone. You are never alone. You are valued, and you are cherished. You are loved so very, very, very much. And for as much as that holds true for each of us, it still holds true unto eternity for all of those that we miss and mourn and remember, and that surround us today. They too are never alone. They are valued. They are cherished. They are still so very, very loved by us and by their Lord and Savior, who delivers us from death. And if that promise isn't enough to bring you hope today, there is just a wee bit more. There is hope today because of who our own saints have made us. It is because of them that we are here, fully equipped to bring the kingdom that Jesus calls us today to bring. Like I said, this gospel is all hope, but it is still that call. So maybe your saint taught you to love the world, your neighbor, yourself. Go out and use that love to comfort the grieving. Maybe your saint is the one who nurtured your faith, who brought you to church, who taught you about God. Go use that faith to bind up the poor in spirit. Maybe your saint taught you to strive for peace and for hope, to strive for equality, to strive for righteousness. Go use that encouragement to fight with those who are striving for the good of their neighbor. Maybe you're like me, and your saint taught you optimism just like my grandpa taught me. Go use that optimism and spread a little sunshine in this world that needs it so desperately. Whomever your saint is, they gave you something, and only you know what it is, and only you know how you can use it for the good of the kingdom that Jesus has created. I know this year has been hard. Hard like so many other years before it have been. We have said goodbye to people that we have loved fiercely. We have stood with our neighbors through countless numbers of natural disasters. We have watched in tearful anguish as innocent lives have been lost. We have said goodbye to icons and role models. We have been through a year of rampant political change that has brought discord and division no matter what side of the aisle you stand on. We have fought for a breath of fresh air in a world that never ceases to just get busier and busier. And we have wondered, where on earth is the hope? Hope is here. It's right here. In the people that we are, and in the people that we carry with us, in the people that God loves with such reckless abandon. And so I want to leave you with one last hopeful post. This one came from the Velveteen Rabbit. It said, "You become." It takes a long time. It's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have been carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But those things don't matter at all. Because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to the people who don't understand. There is hope in our memories today because we have been loved and because we have loved so very much. It might hurt, but it is not hopeless because we are so very real today. There is hope because we have not been gently kept. And because of that, we have seen God's kingdom and we have created God's kingdom, and we have given our hearts away for its sake. So today, fellow saints of God, celebrate your realness. And in that, I pray that you find the hope you've been looking for. Amen.